going, I wanna go. Wherever you're headed, can you let me know? Don't mind catching up, I'm on my way. Just can't take the thought of you miles away. And I know you're going somewhere to make a better life. I hope that you find it on the first try. And even though it kills me that you have to go, I know it will be sadder if you never hit the road. So farewell. Somebody's gonna miss you. Farewell. Somebody's gonna wish that you were here. That somebody's me. I will write to tell you what's going on, but you won't miss nothing but the same old song. If you don't mind catching up, I'll spend a day telling you stories about a land far away. But I know, and I know you're going somewhere to make a better life. I hope that you find it on the first try. And even though it kills me that you have to go, I know it will be sadder if you never hit the road. So farewell. Somebody's gonna miss you. Somebody's gonna wish that you were here. Somebody's gonna miss you. Somebody's gonna wish that you were here. That somebody's me. And I'm gonna try to hold it all in, try to hold back my tears so it don't